panel discussion on urbanization in Kerala, how is the state evolving and what are the challenges. So we'll be opening the floor for a Q&A session post the panel discussion. Now I hand over the session to our moderator, Dhanu sir.
Sir, I mean, I completely agree with what you said, because I see I'm the bad boy in many of these circles for so many years. I come here with an anecdote. Yesterday we wrote an article published in the Malayalam Daily. I get so many calls. Why are you writing all these things in a public domain? If you have to have these discussions, come to us and discuss it. And I, from my experience, we've been discussing it for many years, but nobody's hearing us. So next step is like discuss those things in the public domain so that at least public have that awareness about all these issues. And I'm also asked by another national media yesterday to write an opinion piece on Chennai floods. So I was actually going through, I've been following Chennai floods since 2015. So there are so many. I think today the Hindu newspaper has carried a full page on what happened in Chennai. So this could happen in Kochi also. It happened in 2018 floods during floods in Kerala. Kochi also was under water. Have you learned from any of these experiences is the question that we are asking today. And the idea of this fellowship was also to create awareness among the youngsters about what are the local issues and what are the, because many times I've been hearing, for so many years I've been hearing, my street light is not working. What is the mayor doing about it? Right? So I think media also discusses it. I don't know whether some journalists are here or not, but media also discusses it quite often, like, things are not working in cities. Mayor is responsible. But when we talk to mayor, this is also, this is something that I talked to sir in the morning. On paper, there is a power, but in reality, there's no power for council or the mayor, or they lack the data, evidence, or the professional support. And I'm also happy that a city like Kochi has got so many international agencies. I think some of the representatives are also here. Kochi is blessed with global expertise. And I started my journey way back in 2005, 2006. I think both of us, Vineetha and I, started almost the same time. And I'm so happy that we are reconnecting for so many years. So probably I start this discussion from Vineetha. You were here working on various, I think you started with the master plan preparation. You were hired, and then you have good and bad experience. And how do you reflect it when after 20 years, have we moved further in understanding the local issues, whether governance improved, whether the debates, like sir said, whether we are discussing future issues or the past issues. I've been hearing this waste management since my school days. I don't know how long we're discussing it. And we've been discussing waterlogging for a long time. I think when I was in college here, sometimes...
I make a comment. That means it's a dynamic issue. Waste management is a dynamic issue, and you cannot allow it to die down. It has to live in our scheme of things year after year. That's probably the idea.
Sure. Vineetha, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dhanuraj. It gives me great pleasure to be here with Dr. Ramachandran and Sohanji after so many years. So, so we began with the master plan preparation for Cochin City way back in 2005, and so we tried to do a very different participatory planning approach, if you remember, and this was pre-JNNURM, so before the CDP came into place. And so we tried to do a ward-wise, interaction with the members of the ward and with the residents associations. And so it was a very, very dynamic and high publicity kind of program, which we did for 2 years. And we got a lot of very interesting wish lists from the residents, and we managed to make it a very different kind of master plan. We deviated from the traditional master plan, what is done in town planning departments, and where you just do this colored maps and that goes into the, the cupboards, and it never sees the light of the day, because whatever you see on the ground is an absolute violation of the land use plan that is done. So we wanted to go a step away from that, and so we tried that kind of reformist master planning exercise, but we did have success. We did it in a scientific way also. We hired consultants for various subjects of the master plan, like for water supply, for transportation, for housing, and so on and so forth, demography. So I think a lot of those proposals then came the announcement of the JNNURM and the city development plan, and then there was an announcement that there's no more relevance of the master plan, and it's going to go into a different process called the city development planning under the Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission. So, but then much of it got translated into the city development plans, whatever projects we captured in the master plan. So that was a success or whatever limited success of the master planning exercise. But to answer your point of the journey after that, so because of the kind of the tardy, implementation, the slow process of the way things were, not seeing the light of the day, so then I moved on, and I wanted to be a decision maker from a planner, and that's when I did my master's in public policy from Singapore, and luckily I got a scholarship and went there. So post that, there was a paradigm shift in the entire perspective, and I could do a lot of programs with Government of India where I actually formulated policies and implemented them, much of it in the urban and rural space only. And so one interesting mission I would like to speak about is the National Urban Mission, because taking on from what Sir just spoke about, the amalgamation of towns and villages and this kind of seamless thing, that Kerala is actually an an example, very good example of urban, urban. So we did a program called National Urban Mission, which is actually the earlier PURA, so the provision of urban amenities in rural areas. But that implementation of PURA hit a lot of roadblocks because of the way it was designed to give a lot of empowerment to private builders to actually anchor the whole implementation, which didn't work out because the private builder had to go from pillar to post trying to get approvals and stuff. So we actually redesigned the entire thing, and we called it the Urban Mission, where we had clusters of growth identified across the country. Clusters would be a group of Grama Panchayats actually, and also census towns were included in that. So a group of such urban local and rural local bodies, we call it a cluster, and we identified a kind of an economic activity for that cluster. And so then we had 300 such clusters across the country, and the aim was to saturate those clusters with basic amenities. So that time even basic amenities was not there in 2014. So 2014 we didn't have, but then this mission was 2015 to 18. So we identified 300 such clusters across India. So for example, if it is, Alapi, district of Alapi, then it could be a Koya cluster. So Odisha, we had a Haldi cluster. In Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, we had a, red chili cluster. So not just agriculture produce, it could also be based on the economic activity, like a handicraft cluster, handloom cluster. So besides economic, focus, it also had this aim of saturating that entire cluster with all the amenities, basic amenities, and we got good success there across the country. Kerala also, we had about 4 clusters across the state. And so there again, we attempted that all the rural local bodies also should have master plans done for their kind of this cluster, this urban cluster. And so we tried to create another administrative kind of a class called a urban entity. So which didn't kind of see the light of the day because the MPCs and DPCs also have not seen the light of the day. So we initiated a concept that all the Grama Panchayats and the urban local bodies together should form a plan for that particular cluster. So that also I think did not really move forward because what I'm trying to say is master planning is still a very a subject which is not really gone down well with the local bodies, because again, taking on from what Sir said about lack of expertise in local bodies to undertake such exercises. So why I'm trying to highlight this is trying to say that the story has actually not evolved much from the last 20 years, but we are doing a lot of attempts, a lot of exercises. So I think what is required is to go away from the traditional master plan, which is, I think, proven that it's not really working on the ground, the spatial planning, the land use planning exercises. It has to be more of a participatory planning approach, bottoms up approach, and integrating the requirement for urban amenities as well as the urban finances, urban and rural finances, and also looking at the economic activities. I think these three has to be integrated, and we have to move beyond just urban to territorial planning. I think that's what the globe is going towards, breaking the boundaries between rural and urban and going towards territorial planning. Yeah.
Thanks, Vineetha. I think we will come back to this regional planning. You're part of the system for so many decades, and I think many of us have been listening to you, and so many conversations around various challenges faced by Kochi city. I'm not confining to Kochi city, but taking Kochi as an example. So now we discuss MPC, we discuss DPC, we discuss metropolitan, planning. Then we have GCDA. Some time back I was asked in Delhi, can you do a study about your development authorities vis-a-vis municipal corporations, how much impact it has made, or positive or negative, whatever impact we made. And GCDA, by the way, I believe a early concept of metropolitan area, right? I mean, say 80s and 90s, we created GCDA for that. But none of these things have shaped up. I mean, taken a concrete role, a definite role in cities planning. And recent example is our UMTA, Unified Metropolitan Transport Authority. And Delhi, I think on Monday when I was there, I attended a meeting where we were talking about UMTA 2.0. Right. Here, I think we have not even seen 1.0. Right. So, what's your insight, sir?
As Ramachandran sir said, everything is right on paper. But in reality, none of these systems work, or none of these systems are relevant at all. So we, after maybe half a century in this local body as a foot soldier, I'm very frustrated. We talked about the 74th Amendment and the decentralization process. But till date, after 30 years of 74th Amendment, not a single item mentioned in the 12th schedule. 12th schedule is the 18 items that the municipalities' functions are included. Not even one item has been transferred to the local body. Even today, everybody has to run to the, whether it's a mayor or the panchayat president or the municipal chairman has to run to Trivandrum to get a small clearances. So, I do not know how to go beyond that. We have the ward sabha, we have the ward committees, everything on paper. It is because in 6 months, once in 6 months at least, you have to have a meeting. If that meeting is not conducted, then the councillor will lose his membership. So, due to that check there, the meetings are held. And then we have the Ward Sabha offices, which is called Sevagram, with a picture of Gandhi on that. Every ward has got an office. So Gandhi's picture, his name is Sevagram. And anybody can walk in and complain about anything. But ultimately, when somebody comes and complains that there is no water supply, what can the municipality do? Because water supply is not within the municipality function. Or there is an electricity failure, or the street lights are not. These are not municipal functions. You have to then, the person in charge there or the ward councillor will say, okay, we will take it up with the electricity board, or we will take it up with the water authority. Or if the buses are not plying in time, or the schools there are few classes where the teachers have not been appointed. Anything, because these ward committees or the municipalities do not have any say in these things. It's all beyond the municipality. But the ward committee is there, if they don't meet in 6 months, finished. So that is one side of it. Second side is no political party that comes to power in the state want to devolve any of these functions to the local bodies. And the multiple agencies that the government has created. There's a PWD which does the road and the bridges. Even the small bridges and roads are now under the PWD. Now the electricity board. Suppose some big complexes are coming here. Electricity board is not aware of it. On the day it is permitted, they demand such a lot of electricity which they cannot meet. Same thing with water. Now they are building huge 400 houses in the slum areas. Now ultimately when the houses are being completed, somebody asked about the water supply. There is no source for water supply. And about electricity. So there is a disconnect in all these things. What the GCDA does, the municipality doesn't know. What the GIDA does, there is another agency, the Gosri Islands Development Authority. That's another agency. The neighboring municipalities. There is a disconnect in all these things and nobody takes a call on this. In spite of the fact that funds today are not such a big constraint. Local funds that we generate from the municipality and the funds, take smart city. Kochi is one of the smart cities. We have got a lot of funds for that. But it's all being spent in unnecessary areas. Priority should be to put the basics right. And what are the basics? As he said, waste management. Solid waste is visible. Liquid waste is the most dangerous thing. The report prepared by GIZ says 80% of the groundwater is contaminated. And because there is water supply shortage, people use groundwater. Groundwater is very much available here. So these realities, we have not made any attempt to put the basics right. Public transport, the people like Haria here, the Metropolitan Transport Authority, what he mentioned. Such a lot of hypos created, such a lot of hopes were tied around the Metropolitan Transport Authority, the first legislated Metropolitan Transport Authority in the country. So even the central schemes, when Ramendran sir was there, Januarum scheme, we were given 400 buses, for which we had to, the municipality, the city corporation had to make a master plan, a DPR for that and present it to the center. We got the NATPAC to come and work for us. Every small detail was worked out. We submitted the plan. We got 400 buses. And once the buses came here, the government handed it to KSRTC. And then the mayor and council, we went to the city bus stand and there was a demonstration and satyagraha and all those things. And just for your information, there was a meeting called by the chief minister, said the minister came here. Minister came here, we had a meeting. And he was very sarcastic. He said, he's a very senior politician. He said, okay, we will do what we do is mayor wants to run the transport system. So let us hand over the KSRTC to the mayor. And everybody laughed. And that was the end of it, because mayor was a junior politician. We couldn't do anything. Similarly, water supply. 74th Amendment, the 12th schedule says, water supply, domestic, industrial and commercial. All three have to be a municipal function. So the central government, Ramendran sir, passed on the funds to the municipality. And we had a 100 MLD scheme. So when the funds came here, the government called a meeting. And this was, what Kerala Water Authority was made an nodal agency. That's the end of it. So all the funds from the municipal coffers, it went to the water authority. And they did this project. And now water supply is not coming to the city, it goes anywhere. Wherever water authority has got pipelines, it goes to all the other panchayats and municipalities. This particular project was given to go to the urban poor, the panchayats and the Matanjeri Fort Cochin area slums. But water doesn't. Story is still there. And water is the lowest hanging fruit in Cochin. Just take a place like Matanjeri. 10, 20 meters from this thing, there's water on this thing. Another 500 meters, there is a shipping channel. Then another 1 kilometer and it's the Arabian Sea. But still, they get water 3 hours a day. After 75 years of independence, this is the state. And whom are we to complain to? Central funds are there. For this Amrit scheme is there. So many schemes are there. So, solid waste. We have 110 acres of land. No other municipality has got such a lot of land. And that is close to the chemical dump of FACT. We can do anything there. But in spite of all that, we don't have the system in place. The Januram project, we got huge amount of funds for solid waste management. We tried to put a system in place. And there is already a system in place, somewhat, because door collection is nearly 90% segregated collection happens in Cochin after all these years. But now, a scheme has come where all this, even bio waste is going to be taken 30-40 kilometers to Brahmapuram to be processed into biogas. The refinery has given funds for that and they are going to operate this one. How can you carry all this waste from a place like Topumbadi or Pallurthi to Brahmapuram? It's so difficult. So there is a manual on solid waste, there is a solid waste management rules that has been promulgated by the central government. Very sensible rules. But nobody wants to put all these things in place. Everybody goes after a fancy project and the government goes after that. That is the particular. And transportation. Public transport is the heart of any city life. Because the poorer people has to come to the city to work. Only then, as somebody said, the city belongs even to the shoe shine boy. Unless they come in to service the city will go dead. But then how can they access the opportunities in the city? There's no planned public transport in the city. And this is a city where we have all three systems. We have the road, the rail and the water transport. Through water it is connected, throughout Kerala, Cochin is connected. And now we have a water metro system which is not affordable to the common people. See, from Waipin to Ernakulam, there is the government boat service as well as the, just 10 meters, both the jetties are just 10 meters away. The water metro is 20 rupees, it is 30 rupees actually, but they subsidize it to 20 rupees. The other is 6 rupees. It takes the same time. And the other boat frequency is very high. We have a metro system here. And many people take pride in it. Now it is going to start from Tripunithura to Alway, which is one way it is 60 rupees. Both ways it is 120 rupees. There's a railway line going parallel to that. Where if you take a season pass, it is 5 rupees up and down. 120 rupees is somewhere, see the common people who travel, if it was crisscrossing the city, even then we have it's a small city of 6 lakhs of people. No city in Kerala is worth calling it a city. These are all towns, it's just 6 lakhs. Cochin. We made an agglomeration for that master plan. It was 12 lakhs. Even now it is 12 lakhs. In spite of the counting the migrant labor that has come in, which goes to beyond 1 lakh. In spite, with adding that together, we have only 12.5 lakhs. And for a metro system, the urban ministry has said we will need at least 30 lakhs. Minimum 20 lakhs you can start off. And here this population is crashing like anything. And now we are extending in a metro system. We have already spent 8,000 crores on the metros. 8,000 crores. For 80,000 people, that means 40,000 people are being serviced going up and down. 8,000 crores. Now we are carrying it to Kakinad, where there is only 77,000 people that is the population of Trikakara municipality. You cannot even have a bus system for that. There we are building another metro system and nobody takes a call. My point is nobody takes a call on all those things. The policies are there, reasoning is there, and standards are fixed throughout the country, but nobody follows that. Even the court. The people went to court on the 24th Amendment, 74th Amendment. But the court did not support decentralization. Court just ruled it out. It's for the state government to do. So this is the reality in which all of us have to wade through. And the great experience that we had, because Ramendran sir was the central secretary of those days, Januram days, we got most of our plans cleared. Otherwise, we wouldn't have got it, because the state government had insisted that we should make in-house preparations and go and present it. Whereas the other cities, they come, L&T will be a present day, EY, so many of those famed consultants will come and present. Here we have to have the water authority engineer to come and present, and they will say, so he was there to help us those days.
Sir, I'm taking cue from both of the comments. So cities are supposed to be the cradle of civilization. I mean, that's how the cities are historically or organically evolved and developed over the centuries. And I'm not sure, I mean, given your experience and all of your experience, Kerala being an urban continuum, whether we fail to create that vibrancy in townships, because we are talking about migration now. We're talking about lack of commuters to take public transport. And you ask the future question, my assessment is Kerala has become very elderly geriatric population in another 10 years. I think no youngsters here in this room, I don't know how many will stay back in Kerala, I'm doubtful about it. My studies shows that most of them are planning to leave. So I think institutional build-up process, you have universities, I think the other day we have an accident, sadly, in Kushat, and next day I was talking to one professor, when immediately the order has come to them like, we don't have a gate, a compound wall to the university, that is why this accident happened. So let's build like a Chinese wall, we should have a wall around the university, but I don't think that is way universities across the globe. I mean, it's a part of the urban system. They are they innovate, cultural ideas, societal changes, innovation, talks, intellectual. That intellectualism happens in the colleges and universities. Unfortunately, that is not happening. I don't want to specify any institutions and colleges here. But is it part of have we failed to understand urbanization is also about institutional build-up, bringing more vibrancy to the society, and are we failing in that?
I think it's crystal clear. We are failing, and that's why we have the problems, isn't it? And that's where I started. So I think you can hear me, no? That's where you start recording. Okay, that's where I started. See, a state like Kerala should have been the leader as far as the urban change in the country is concerned. Unfortunately, it is not so. You and I will keep talking about this, and we will, or at least people like me, we will pass our time without seeing much results. Why is it not possible? That's my question. And why can't it happen? Why can't we evolve a system whereby, one, it is participative, two, it addresses these issues, and three, the urban characteristics to the extent relevant are maintained. I mean, river systems somewhere are important. We have these various water bodies even within the system. Luckily, Water Metro is a good beginning which has been made here. That's fine, but then Sohanji talked about the high fare part of it. But my counter question to Sohanji would be that you can keep on subsidizing, but if the government can do it, fine. But if you ask a local body or entity to do it, where do they find the resources from? That's their problem. I mean, no one is going to fund it from outside, that you keep a fare of 5 or 6 years, 6 rupees or so, and we will keep giving you funds. Same with Metro also. It will go on for some time, but a stage will come when they will not be able to invest in their new rolling stock. This rolling stock will become old, outdated by some time. They will not be able to, they will have to look for a loan. If the earlier loan is not fully repaid, there is not going to be another loan. Government is not going to find the resources to refinance the rolling stock required. So there are various aspects and elements of an urban governance system which need to be understood, and it has to evolve. I'm not saying that only the civil service can do it. It is a joint action between the political system at the local level and the existing service. Now again, to go back to Sohanji's point, sometimes I consider it is good that water is with the water authority. Because if water is also given to the local body and with no resources, with no pipes replaced and rusting and all those problems and water not reaching in places, local body will say, I don't have the resources to spend or renovate it or change it. Sohanji, you may recall, in a city like Kolkata, the main water supply pipes which were laid during the time of the British could be replaced, which needed replacement, could be replaced only during the mission time. Till then, no one could pay attention to that, or since it is underground, it is not visible, isn't it? Sewage also has the same problem. Since it is underground, no one can take credit for that. That no councillor or mayor will say, I brought this system. And Kochi is a classic example. I don't know whether it used to be 5% coverage. I don't know whether from 5% it might have gone to 6%. But Kochi is one of the rare cities in the country where the sewage network is very, very, very limited. Whereas there are other cities far better than Kochi. So there are these issues, there are these problems. We are aware of that. And who elects our councillors and mayor? We only elect our councillors and mayors, isn't it? Somebody has some viewpoint there?
I'll give time. Yeah.
So it is time we evolve something and presented something to the country as a model. It is possible in Kerala.
So there's a challenge. Some of us are, at least I'm very young in this crowd, but at least for 20 years I've been working the system. And I see when we talk to government, I don't think they understand the real challenges in urbanization, because we are still in the very romantic world of, I don't know who is the bad boy again in this debate. Sometimes we say cities are of criminals, cities are of, for corruption. I think this is the literature probably we generated 50 years back, thanks to all the, the literature we studied in our school classes. I don't think we have moved ahead, because I don't think anybody understands cities. For example, in India, if I'm not wrong, 70% of GDP comes from cities. But in Kerala, I don't think and I think 60% of Kerala's revenue comes from this region, Kochi and suburbans. But I don't think decision makers understand, you can't have a rural solution for an urban challenge. That's what my experience, because when we talk to politicians, when we talk to even senior bureaucrats, they think that we should continue as a green. I'm very vocal about green part of Kerala, but at the same time we are not, because that is what I think for each and everything solution is same. Whether you have waste management problem or your water problem, I think they suggest the old outdated solutions. And what is the incentive also? Because in a city like, I don't think Kerala government accepts that Kerala is an urban continuum. That is also one thing I understand. My experience when I talk to them, they say Kochi is one metropolitan city, but they don't consider Alleppey or Kollam or Nedumangad, because I see Indian Railway has come up with a number that shows that Nedumangad is one of the fastest growing, so that they want a railway connectivity, connecting Karakutam. I think Kollam and Malappuram are the two fastest growing urban agglomerations in India, as per the latest reports. But I don't think Malappuram, when we discuss Malappuram, we take it as a urban agglomeration, fast growth. So what we do then? How do we make
aware citizenry is the only answer. When we cast a vote, we have a certain opportunity. If we cast vote on political lines, then we are destined to live with that. So it has to originate from that level. I mean, in the US system, the presidential candidates have to face the electorate and say what they are going to do, isn't it? Similarly, why can't we think of systems when we have our local body elections, whoever is standing for the councillor's position, we as a collective group in different parts of the city are able to ask the councillor what is the solution which you are going to have for these problems of my area. A dialogue process has to be initiated. That probably is the first step. The next step would be to hold that person accountable. Then he or she will say that I tried, but the mayor is from the other party or the bureaucracy is not cooperating and things like that. So that leads to a situation where, I hate to say this, a sort of a movement. Organized citizens movement for getting what is due to them. I see that only as a solution. It's a time-taking process. Or maybe you can opt for better enlightened people to be councillors, if that is possible. If that is possible.
Well, sir, I have a point here. When we conduct this interview.
No one should take it wrongly. I don't mean to say no one is enlightened amongst the group today. They may be, but they have their limitations. And also probably the way we live, we are guided by political considerations. Probably party tells them what to do and what not to do. So, I mean, again I go back to my point, local body governance should be above politics. Can we move towards a system like that? I was talking to Dr. Dhanuraj about the 2020, which is much publicized. I don't know whether they've been able to make an impact wherever they are. I believe so, but there could be other factors relevant in that. So the beginning has to be from that level, and also, the public debates, deliberations and things like that. I was just reminded, I think the Chief Minister mentioned somewhere yesterday that they are thinking about an urban commission or something like that. Probably that's one channel through which these thoughts would get, highlighted, and if it gets incorporated. Of course, Kerala's earlier urbanization report is adorning the shelves, I know that. I too have a copy of that because I wanted to understand what they said. So it is there. But some of these reports and all, though they may not reach the 100% level, they may reach a 10% level if that happens. So one has to think of that, but think of the other side. For a politician, it's a question of survival continuing to exist. If I have 5 municipal corporates with me today, tomorrow it should be 6. That's what he is aiming at. For that, what do I need to do? Satisfying your and my requirement of street light and water supply in a particular area, that's not going to be the solution. He looks at the larger solution that whether there is street light or not, but if I give something free or a bus ride free, if that is going to fetch more votes for me, I will opt for that. So it's a given system. I mean, again, that takes me back to another controversial statement, I should say. Lee Kuan Yew was President of Singapore, right? President of Singapore. He said, I think in the Indian context probably, you needed to start with a limited democracy first. You start with a limited democracy, reach a certain level, and then make democracy as open as it is now. We started with a total democracy, so everything is democratic here. I can hold my viewpoint, I can block my road, I can encroach, I can throw garbage anywhere, I can do whatever I want. So that is the democracy we have. The question is, and I go back to another favorite point of mine, when you point fingers, 3 are pointing towards you. Okay. Isn't it? That we often do not recognize. We can only criticize, comment, but what is our role? So this discussion should get extended to the role of the citizens as a collective. I mean, one individual, you or me, making an effort will not. So the role of the citizens. So it's all mixed, complicated, and unless we are prepared to address that, this is not going to change.
Sure. Vineetha, I just want to take you back to that discussion about planning methods. You're a planner and you're a trained person, and now reflecting on your experience in the last 20 years, do you think Kerala is practicing modern day planning, or Kerala is still stuck in the conventional processes and thought processes, and how is the discourse now?
No, absolutely. As we heard from all of us already, Kerala is still seeming to have not really progressed much, but maybe there are attempts to change the whole way of planning that's being done. Start from scratch, but brownfield smart city is the best approach. But again, smart city lacks that kind of narrative that stitches it together. There's a master plan is a very cliched traditional terminology. I don't want to use master plan. Maybe a strategy to or a narrative to integrate all these isolated projects, and where does it all lead to, in the next 20 years or 10 years or 5 years? Sure. I think that's important.
Sure.
We are making an Amritam, an GIS-based master plan.
Yes.
And there is not a single person who knows what GIS is in the corporation.
No, I had two experiences. I think I can. This is the last point, so I'll open to the floor. And I remember two instances when I was working with Mayor. One I think I shared with Sir when we were having tea. When JNNURM bus came, I don't want to name the person and name them. Mayor asked some inputs also, the JNNURM one, and then he went to Trivandrum and he met the Transport Minister. And Transport Minister said, Mr. Mayor, when you were in school, I was the Minister of Kerala State. When you were in school, actually he said when you were in trousers, right? I don't want to name who was that. I was a Minister of Kerala, so don't teach me. I know what to do and what to deal with, how to deal with the buses that are coming under JNNURM project in Kochi. So Mayor said, this is my last attempt. I don't want to discuss with him and remember, these are like from the same political party, right? It was not from an opposition party. So that was first instant, and I think second instance was we had these MOUs with many of these foreign cities. Kochi has got few. I still remember one of the meetings I attended, the counterpart, the planner from that foreign city came to Kochi and asked in that meeting, can you give us the map of Kochi city? And actually what she meant was GIS map, right? And somebody in the meeting said, oh, we have maps. After some much of prodding, we realized that it was like, a map pasted on a Word document, right?
2001 structure.
Yeah. It's not GIS. So, like he said, we are not able to differentiate what is GIS map and what is map on a Word document. It's a photo, JPEG image on a. So we all felt a little embarrassed because I am also representing Kochi city, and the planner from France says like, where is the map? And somebody from the corporation says that this is the map. So what to do? So we all fled this place, flee from the hotel. So my last comment before I open to the so you were the mayor of Kochi city in 1990 to 1991, and I think all of us agree Sohan sir should have been an MLA or minister, right? That didn't happen. So what is that urban politics? I'm not getting into your political party position, but I see when I read urban cities history in India, I think many of our freedom fighters were mayors of cities, right? Starting from Patel to Babu Rajendra Prasad to everyone. But now we don't see any of these things happening. And I think even President Lee, whether we agree or disagree with his views, he was also mayor in one of the Chinese cities. So what is the incentive now for us to make those changes at the state level so that there's a competitive politics also at the city level?
Competitive politics is of course there. If there is a competitive environment, just take. Now this smart city was a challenge. It was named a smart city challenge. All the cities can compete. And the first 60 cities will be selected and 20 cities will be funding will be starting immediately. So all the cities from Kerala competed. And Cochin came 5th in India, whereas the other cities went beyond 100. Cochin came 5th in India. We got approved a project of 2,070 crores sewage systems and that, everything is there. But when it came down here, central government had stipulated that we should form an SPV. And the state government, the municipality approached the state government for an SPV. So state government made an SPV in which the chief secretary is the chairman. And there are 11 IAS officers and 1 mayor on board. So that is the smart city. So now, instead of 5 years, it is 7 years. Not even 500 crores worth of projects have been done. And in June it is ending. So that is competitive, as you said. There was another competition, I think you might remember, that is called the Solar Cities competitive this thing. Cochin competed and we came on top. That was a 400 crore funding. So high in the press meet in Delhi was so, for a young mayor, it was great. But ultimately when we came down here, the government appointed NERT as a nodal agency. And that ended it. NERT is a government agency. And they appointed a special staff for taking this, and not even 1 paise of that was spent in the 5 years. So there ends all these things. If you make a competitive environment, all the cities will compete. If Cochin can do all this, and Cochin has got a tradition of then all the other cities will fall in line. Questions will be asked, why Cochin got that? Why didn't Trivandrum get it? That was already raised. Oh, the government was pressurized. And the government approached the central government and said, this is a capital city. We should not be pulled into a competition. We should get special. Then the central government approved it as a smart city. All the other cities competed. Trivandrum got it through the back door. So that is how competitive. If there are opportunities, competition, certainly certain cities will drive ahead. So the others will be forced to follow because it's a democracy. People, it has to be explained to the people. So it's always there.
So now, floor is open. I probably prefer questions and comments.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shanoy. I'm a chartered accountant. So you may worry why I'm here. So basically, I was little into real estate and consulting. So my question to the panelist is, we have a central city structural plan 2001. So it is very, if you look at the plan, you will find that, some areas are marked as red, some as green, and some as, yellow and all those things. But if you, as a citizen, if you go to an authority and ask this survey number, whether it is falling under, mixed zone or, residential zone, then no authority will give you in writing whether it is, which category it is. That is one thing. The second thing is we have a lot of authorities, GCDA, the RTP, then the GIDA and all those things. So it is like a practitioner who is an architect, if he wants to know whether, this road, this land is used for what purpose, he will not be able to make it out because as the building rules, it may be, it has a road width of 6 meters and you can build a house. But in structural plan, it may be different. It may say it is a green zone. So why we should have a lot of different rules and regulations rather than have one compact and, useful legislation and one, this thing where, it is very transparent. We need not run behind a lot of, notifications, circulars, and in 2015-16 somewhere the government said whichever structural plan and circulars were applicable, maybe it is notified in 81 or 90 that are still made validated in 2016. Thank you.
No, I think it's more of a comment and on kind of reflection of the reality in Kerala. I think specifically to Kerala, I think this kind of bureaucratization and multiplicity of agencies and stuck in circulars and notifications rather than implementation, I think is more relevant to Kerala's context. And you're right about the land use planning, because I also, if I want to know what is the land use of this particular ward or particular area, we wouldn't know So there is a, there is a kind of a statement that you're making that we should make this available to public. We should have, it should be more kind of, ubiquitous or whatever. So.
What is your national experience? How this works in other cities also?
So, yeah, sorry. I just like just to complete this. So this Goa, Goa, the town planning department has actually made it available to residents, to citizens. They can actually view it on the internet, and they can see which is their. So I think there's a case for kind of making it more user friendly. I think. Yeah. So sorry. Yeah.
Goa,
Goa, so Goa, Chennai also.
Survey number wise.
Right. So.
I thought in today's scheme of things with access to information, right to information and all that, once the master plan is notified, I think the details would be accessible maybe from the town planner's office or so. That's the impression I have. I don't know whether there is a payment to be made to access that. I don't think there should be. But the way it is, the entire process takes place, I have certain reservations, though Sohanji has made another point criticizing the IAS system. I am one who believes in the IAS system at least makes the country run the way it is. Minus that, you can see whether the country, how the country will run. You can have an experience whenever you can have. But I disagree there, and I don't know why all IAS were put on the smart city board. I don't know. I am also there, though I am not in the service now. So I really don't know. But that does not mean a limitation, because I'll take some time on this. The smart city plan, it was supposed to originate from the city, from below. And whenever any proposal comes up in the board, I try to focus on this point, that is it in line with what the citizens wanted. So generally we get an answer that it is more or less according to that, and schemes are being taken up according to that. But then there are problems in closer to Sohanji's area. There was a 166 crore sewage plan proposed, but it could not take off due to local resistance. So there are situations like that also. So IAS officers being there does not mean that it is an IAS community or IAS scheme of things. I must make it clear, Sohanji, let's not have this impression about the civil service. And and also, Sohanji, people like me, we compete in an all India examination and enter the service. We do not come through back door. We do not come through back door, we do not come through recommendations. So we enter the service, and today also I go for mock interviews and things like that. If it was 1 lakh at that time, it has gone to 20 lakhs and like that, the participants. Out of that, about 1,000 people get selected. That is the selection system. So, with all the political scheming we have around us, the politicians probably have not succeeded in influencing this. It is still through a UPSC process. That is how it happens. And whoever is in the service, he or she generally is expected to conform to what he or she is supposed to contribute to. There are exceptions, there are variations who do not do. Some become corrupt, some make money, some look for other options and things like that. It's unfortunate, but broadly the system works because of that. And this was more evident during situations like COVID and all that, when we had a certain prevailing system where people could look up to some scheme of things. So that is as far as the criticism of the service is concerned. let me complete. I'm not part of the system today, but since I've seen the system, since you asked also, I've seen it work in different parts of the country. Coming to the master plan process, unfortunately my feeling is, I have been a collector also for 5 years in 2 districts. When the process is on, it is basically the town planning department and that setup which does this work. People are supposed to participate. Discussions are supposed to take place in different areas, but participation is either nil or do not take the trouble. Then a draft master plan is prepared and notified, isn't it? People have opportunity to raise objections. How many undertake that process or take the trouble of finding out where my property or locality is and what is projected in that? Very many people do not do that. Probably one doesn't want to take the trouble of understanding it,
or it requires explanation by a qualified town planner. But basically, if I'm in a slum, how the slum is reflected in the master plan, that is there. If there is a arterial road also proposed, I should find out whether part of my property is going into that or not. It is possible. I don't think it is secret at that stage. So you can raise objections at that stage. It is after that it gets notified. Once it gets notified, it's a public property. So I'm not in agreement with you that it is not accessible at all. So there are varying systems, but when I meant participative, what I meant is because of this process, very many people do not try to understand what it is, and my problem arises when I apply for an approval or a clearance. Then I realize that it is notified as this or that. Okay, till then. So that awareness is lacking, and the inclination to try to understand what the new master plan is saying, that is also lacking. So that seems to be the problem. People like you should educate people and guide people when a master plan process is on. This is what is proposed. This is how we are going to be affected. That has to be there. And in a master plan process, there have to be certain common facilities. You cannot get away from that. If additional road is required, it is required. You know Hyderabad, where an outer ring road has come into existence. Luckily, not in areas where there are huge populations. But that caters to some sort of relief in congestion as far as the big city is concerned. I do not know whether any such possibility is here, but still the highways go ahead. Highways go ahead because people cooperate because the compensation probably is good, isn't it? So it happens. So the master plan process is a complicated process. It is not convenient for you and me because somehow we will be affected somewhere. We have to understand that. But it's a question of making that as representative as possible. But that information sharing is, there is something lacking in that. And you know the global picture. Out of the 6,000 plus urban, 4,000 plus urban local bodies we have, 2/3 do not have a master plan also. So there anything can happen. The next subject is the census towns. There also you do what is called construction. You fill with whatever construction is possible and all that. By the time it's notified as an urban body and a master plan comes, and then after that you can do nothing about it. You don't have you don't have facility to lay sewer lines. Drainage cannot happen. And any common facility required, you won't have place for that. So that's why in some thinking I also advocate that we need to address the issue of census towns at that stage itself. But no one wants it because all the rural funds happily come to those areas. You don't pay property tax. You don't have to bribe so much, I suppose. And you're happy with that situation. So ultimately we are going to end up with towns which will become proper towns in the sense of the notified municipal body, which will be another urban mess or confusion. So these issues are linked. And again, my answer is when that process is on, you probably have to, the guide to a certain section of people in the area. This is
2001 notifications are made valid even in 2014. The notification 2015 and 16 said whatever notifications made earlier are still valid.
See, sorry, what I meant was, it was a corporation project, smart city, but then it was the government officials who constituted the board of directors of the mission. I just mentioned the IAS officer, means all senior bureaucrats are there on the board. Now this planning, now we are in the process of finalizing the GIS-based master plan. What has happened is, people like me, we have filed a lot of anomalies pointed out. But then government is under severe pressure from the central government because it is part of the 100% funded by Amrit, under the Amrit scheme. So Amrit, through Amrit, central government is funding water supply, so many other schemes. So all those funds are held up because they have not done this. So government says we don't have time for redressing all your this thing. We just want to. So when you approve a master plan in a hurry, without considering so many things, then it is going to be, sidetracked. First thing. Second thing, without building the infrastructure for an GIS-based master plan in the city corporations, not even in the town planning department, they have enough people to master that. So that is a bigger anomaly. So now we have a command and control center in Kalur, spent nearly 30-40 crores. State-of-the-art thing. Everywhere cameras are kept, hundreds of cameras throughout the city. There's a chamber for the police as well as the city corporation. It is run now by police. Nobody has taken charge even today. The corporation thing has been given on contract to a Hyderabad firm. They just sit there, nothing is connected, GIS-based street lighting, some portions have done. Nothing is connected, all these things, huge investment, beautiful facility. But corporation doesn't have anybody who can manage it or understand it. So I asked one day when the minister called a conference, who is the owner, who is going to be the owner of the data that is generated? And there is no idea on that. So that is the disconnect that we have, state-of-the-art facilities without anybody to take ownership.
Other comments? I wish
Yeah, I have a.
out of Kochi, because it was like we are discussing Kochi corporation issues.
Can I ask a question? I'm Jason Jose, an entrepreneur. So, whether we like it or not, the decisions and policies has to come from the political parties or the political leaders. So, unfortunately, they are more equipped in stopping things by either by conferring identities or micro contradictions or some things than initiating things. So we have many agencies here, like the Federal Government and other agencies, global agencies. So to pressurize the politicians, we have, all political parties have different wings. Is there any method, any method to communicate with these wings and educating them or making them aware of the things, good things that are happening in the world, in other parts of the world? So isn't it a good method to make things happen?
Ingredients of any new program, like all the Amrit he talked about, all the central programs have capacity building as an ingredient, which essentially means giving exposure to the elected representatives as well. It is there. Okay. You wanted to ask one point about multiplicity of authorities. My straight first answer would be, New York is a city where multiplicity of authorities exist, but the mayor is a single coordinating point there. In the scheme of things, the mayor has that type of power and he coordinates, and multiplicity does not come in the way. In our scheme of things, as rightly mentioned by Sohanji, there is a water authority which is doing metro, there is an authority here. KSRTC sits there and thinks about the city, if at all they think. I don't know whether they do think or not. We are struggling with the Karikamuri issue, Sohanji. Whether it should be a bus station which should be open to private buses also or not. That is under mobility hub is there are things like that. So we are bound to exist with the multiplicity of authority for some time till we have an empowered system where the mayor is the whole soul as far as city governance is concerned. That will take time. And one more small point, Sohanji, under the Jawaharlal Nehru mission, we tried giving everything to the local bodies to implement. In some places it happened well. I have no hesitation in saying I've seen Gujarat and Maharashtra doing well. Because even the political system there wanted to take advantage of these funds. You are familiar with the sewage scheme proposed for Kochi at that time, which probably could not take off. So the central government, while deciding on these issues, they thought we could think of another model. That's why they thought of an SPV model. So this will be a lesson learned once the mission comes to a close, whether the SPV model worked well or not. SPV model has certain advantages also. I mean, compared to in your council scheme of things, everything is deliberated, debated, and if there is a voting is on political lines, isn't it? Whether there should be a sewage plant or not, it is on political lines. It is not on the lines of whether it is required there or not. So that's why they moved to another system. I had discussions with Mr. Venkaiah Naidu when this scheme was being drafted, So that was a step forward to see whether an SPV will work. SPV has done well in many parts of the country. I don't know whether one can say that about Kochi or not, but they are making efforts. Unfortunately, frequent change of CEOs has been an issue here. If there was one, I would say, young CEO committed to the task and he or she was there for a certain time, it would have worked better. So that's an experiment. Let us see. Let us see what the outcome is. Yeah, but since I'm part of the scheme of things, I must say we give due regard to the one single voice of the mayor in the scheme of things. It is not the rest of the board members who decide. It is basically going by the voice of the mayor. Because personally, I'm also a believer in that. You may recall during the urban mission things, I used to insist on the mayors also coming and accepting the project proposal before the central body for approval. And that worked. Then the mayors got involved and their mayors took pride in coming and making presentation of their projects. Professor Mercy Williams at that time, right? She had come, I recall. So there are situations like that. And one can coexist also, so it's not that it's truncated. One can coexist. I still believe a young committed commissioner here would have made a lot of difference as far as new initiatives in the city are concerned. What I understand is the initiatives are killed. Everything cannot be at the political level. You have to have the inputs from somewhere and then you have to take a decision on that. So that's also a drawback in our scheme of things. And there are states where you look at Maharashtra, you look at Andhra Pradesh, you look at, I don't want to repeatedly mention Gujarat, things happen there. And they take advantage of the central funds. There is no politics in that. If we have one more source, let us take advantage of that and do things in the city. Dr. Dhanuraj was telling me, he is going to undertake a study of Surat, Hari. Surat is a city which did not have much of a bus system. But today Surat has a very spread out BRTS, bus system and a fast moving system also for certain segments. And of course they are having a metro. Whether a metro is required or not, that could be debated. But it is there. So cities which take the initiative, they succeed in moving forward. If we confine ourselves to discussions and debates and then we don't take practical action, we are bound to suffer as far as our scheme of things is concerned.
I think Dhanuraj mentioned, and the data shows that about urban areas, the cities and towns in this country occupy about 3% of the land area and produce about 65% to 70% of the GDP. Now just look at the resources devolved to them. So the point is, I think when there is a, in system theory there is a maxim, structure determines behavior. We can get lost in anecdotal things about something wrong with Kochi people, something wrong with these people, we should emulate people somewhere else, etc. But we are missing the point. The point is a system problem. And so fundamentally, if you just take, it's more a nature of a comment and a kind of a question. I think Dhanuraj or somebody mentioned during the discussion that during the freedom struggle, some of the tallest leaders were produced by mayors of cities. How come we aren't producing them now? Other with the honorable exception of Mr. Sohan. So the point here is, why should anybody worth their salt go to a body which has no powers, which cannot do anything? They will only go to that level of government where they can do something. So if you just contrast the urban development experience of China and India over the same period of development, since 1950 to today, they have created arguably the best urban spaces in the world in terms of transportation facilities. Giant cities like Chongqing, 38-40 million populations here. Forget Kerala. I think they're at least better than most of the urban areas in the rest of the country, which are nightmarish. So my point here is there is a system problem. And as long as we don't tackle the system problem which has been identified by Mr. Sohan here, we will not get a solution. This is open to anybody in the panel.
We will take it up other comments because we are running short of this book.
My question is to Ramachandran sir. Just a little curious, sir, you were mentioning about credit rating of municipalities, and that is something Kerala should be doing or should have done. But then we're talking about a state where most of the functions or almost everything have not been devolved to the ULBs. So how do you see, even if we want to do ring fencing of the status of any function, let's take if it's the usage charges for water supply renting when we're talking about credit rating. So in that case, how do you vision doing any of these given that none of the functions are devolved to the ULBs? I was just trying to make sense out of that.
What is the harm in doing a credit rating and the credit rating agency suggesting that, say, waste management, user charges, this is one method of doing it if you provide efficient service. Similarly, water also, even if it's the water authority doing it, it may not be relevant for the local body, but there are areas, I refer to parking and advertisement and things like that, isn't it? So the potential for doing work, that comes out when you do this. And that's a deliberative process. It's not that the agency sits somewhere and writes it. When they do the study, when they want to arrive at a conclusion, they discuss with the local bodies and all, and then they come up with a recommendation. So that could also be one more step. Like you asked, aware citizenry is one. This could be another step for the local bodies. Somebody like Sohanji sitting there will tell the state government that you give me this, I'll be able to bring about these improvements. Isn't it? And isn't it a tragedy that a state like Kerala, again, which is, as far as democracy is concerned, far advanced, he talked about the 18 functions and how many functions are actually devolved. And I told you, the central government making an attempt to tell the states that you bring about reforms. And I told you about the 23 reforms of My Time Urban Mission and how the state reported that they have implemented this also. So, that's where again, sometimes I go back to Lee Kuan Yew's statement, whether there should be another method of doing things or not, isn't it? You may criticize me for that, but I can't help it. When things don't happen, we have to look at what could be possible options. So these are all different methods which you undertake to sensitize the system. And some stage, somebody like Sohanji can tell the Chief Minister, I think your point should have gone before the Sadassu yesterday. Your point, sorry. It should have gone before the Sadassu. Probably not in your area. And you would have got a response also probably. After that, either you will stop commenting or you will take it forward, whichever way it is. So that is the method we have. If there are issues here, it should get reflected in the state government. But you also have to answer why an enlightened state government like Kerala does not devolve these functions to the local bodies. What could be the reason? I don't know. There could be reasons and there could be studies undertaken. Why is it not being done? So we will struggle with this. So hats off to the central system at that time. Though urban development is not center subject, through an intervention the center asked the states to bring about these changes. And I've given you a live example of how the states report that we have done this or we are doing this. That's a scheme of things. So it will take some time for us probably to evolve these things and bring about changes. And I see it as one more step where there will be awareness generated about the potential in the local bodies, the possibilities. Okay. So that's how we take it forward.
Okay. Unfortunately, we talk